In this video, we are going to talk about one of my favorite parts on any character. Hands are super important and too often overlooked. And you can often identify a beginner work just by watching the hand posing. The first main issue is to keep the rest pose of most rigs. Most of the time, for technical purposes, most character rigs have flat hand whenever they are in rest pose. And to get such a flat hand pose, you need tension, meaning that you need to straighten your fingers so you're not relaxed. So the first thing I would suggest you to do whenever you are posing your character, whatever the rig you are using, is to slightly curl the hand using the palm controller and then to slightly bend the tip of the fingers. Here you can see a reference picture of a relaxed hand and there is no flat shape. Another thing that is very interesting is finger grouping. Most of the time, fingers tend to group themselves by 2 or by 3. The current pose is the one I use the most, with the index and the pinky being separated, and the middle finger and the ring finger being grouped. If you watch some of my animation, you can see that I use it a lot. Whenever I'm posing hand, this is my go-to shape. But you can group the middle ring and pinky together, or you can leave the pinky alone. But you should avoid creating two groups, one with the index and the middle finger, the other with the ring finger and the pinky. While it may fit for a Ninja Turtle, this is not a very natural hand pose. Whenever you are building a fist pose, don't just rotate the root of the fingers and then curl them inward. If you do so, you will end up with a very squared fist, with a flat surface on top of the hand, on front of the hand, and on the inward. This will look very low poly-like or old game fashioned. While if you look to a close fist reference, you can see that there is a lot of curvature in it. So a good practice whenever you are posing a fist is to do the same thing as when you are posing a rest hand. First of all, think of using the palm controller to slightly bend or curl the whole fist. Then watch your own fist. Watch the relationship between each finger and the overall shape. Don't hesitate to play with the location of the bone. It's very hard to get a convincing fist with all the compression by using only the rotation. Again, remember that we are currently sculpting the pose, shaping our character. This is not about getting logical about how the bones should behave in the body of our character. We are not manipulating bones, we are manipulating controllers. So again, watch reference, use your own fist and try to match it. Here is the result whenever I'm using my own fist. Note that the fist position might vary a lot from people to people, and that you will meet limitation due to the current rig. I personally believe that hands are so expressive that they can be considered as being a separated character within the character. When you are posing a hand, just act it. While we have been focusing on motion, line of action and all this kind of thing, this course is about animation. So bringing your character to life. And I do believe that even in an action pose or an action animation, hands can communicate a lot about your character, about his personality. So whenever you are working on hands, treat yourself as a child and play with them. Just remember whatever you were doing whenever you were mimicking a monster when you were a child. Hand poses are written into our subconscious because it's a strong point of attraction on a character. They can be very feminine, for example, or they can show anger or the envy of a evil character. So whatever the tension, the shape you build with the hands, they will communicate something. Finally, whenever you are posing your hand, you have to think about the limitation. While we can break those boundaries whenever we are playing with exaggeration, it's always better to build your poses on the current limitation of the body. Remember that the side-to-side motion of the wrist is pretty limited, just a few degrees of rotation. Again, use your own hand to test it. If you hold your arm straight forward, you can almost twist your hand by 180 degrees, with your palm pointing to the sky. While if you twist your hand inward, you will hardly get over 90 degrees. Regarding the back and forth tilting of the hand, you should be able to reach a 90 degrees angle whether you are bending your hand inward or outward. So whenever you are building those poses, try them yourself. If it's become painful, then you have to compensate whether with the shoulder or the elbow. Fingers also have their limitation. While the thumb is pretty flexible, you will reach a limitation whenever you're trying to spread it as far as possible, till it creates an L shape with the index finger. The index and the pinky can process free rotation with a lot of limitation. So you can rotate a bit with them to create a circular shape, but they are mainly able to curl. The middle finger and the ring finger are more limited. Finally, when it comes to the next joint on your finger, they can only curl, and rotating them along any other axis will look very weird. Again, it doesn't mean you can't rotate them this way, and I do it a lot whenever I'm building smears. But if you hold a pose this way, the finger will look broken. Finally, depending on the people, the finger might be more or less flexible and you can totally bend them backward a bit, especially if they are applying any pressure. This will mark the end of this video, but I do advise you to have a look to the talk of Hjalti Hjalmarsson at the Blender conference. It's one of the best talk about hand posing I've ever seen, and it's really eye-opening. You will find the link in the documentation as usual.